You know that feeling when you're grinding day after day, chasing goals like your life depends on it, but somehow it never feels like enough, like you're hustling your ass off. But instead of getting closer to happiness, you're sinking deeper into doubt and burnout. Here's the wild truth nobody tells you. The problem isn't that you're not working hard enough. The real reason your motivation is dying is because you're chasing the wrong damn motivation. Yeah, you heard me. What if everything you thought about success and drive is actually what's holding you back from the peace and strength you crave? Stick around, because the moment you understand this hidden truth, everything changes. There's a moment everyone hits. Maybe it's late at night when the world is quiet and your mind gets loud, when you realize you're exhausted. Not just tired, but bone deep drained. You've been pushing toward goals that look shiny and promising, but somehow they don't fill the void. Instead, they leave you with this nagging question: is this really what I want? Or am I just running because I'm scared to stop? You feel stuck in this loop of self-doubt and frustration, like you're trying to sprint while wearing chains. Society tells you chase success, hustle harder, be relentless. But no one warns you about the cost, how chasing external goals without connection to your true self can drain your soul. The relationships strain, your peace shatters, and you start questioning your worth. You wonder if you're just a failure waiting to happen. And here's the brutal truth: when your motivation is tied only to what others expect or what looks impressive on the outside, it's fragile. It breaks under pressure. You start doubting your own value because the finish line keeps moving, or sometimes it's just not yours to begin with. You lose patience, you lose faith, and worst of all, you lose yourself. But know this: feeling this way doesn't mean you're weak or broken. It means you're waking up. You're beginning to see that the external world's definition of success isn't built to sustain your inner peace or heal your emotional wounds. That confusion, that burnout, it's the price of ignoring your own voice for too long. You're not alone in this. Many have felt this suffocating tension between what the world wants from them and what their heart quietly longs for. And the good news: this painful breaking point is exactly where transformation begins. Because once you recognize that your worth isn't tied to trophies, titles, or approval, you open the door to a different kind of strength, one rooted in self-awareness, patience, and faith that things can be different. The cost of staying stuck, it's more than just exhaustion. It's giving up on the life you were really meant to live. But the moment you decide to look inward, that's where the real journey starts. Here's where everything shifts: the moment you realize that the way you've been chasing motivation is actually the very thing holding you back. It's like trying to fill a glass with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much effort you pour in, it never feels full. That's the hidden trap of external goals. They're like mirages, beautiful from afar, but impossible to hold into. Now imagine motivation not as a finish line to sprint toward, but as a quiet flame inside you, fueled by something deeper, your own self-determination. This isn't about proving anything to anyone else. It's about reclaiming your power to choose your path, guided by your inner values, not the noise outside. Think about it like this: your mind is a garden. If you keep planting seeds of doubt, comparison, and pressure from outside, you'll grow weeds: stress, burnout, and disconnection. But if you nurture seeds of patience, self-worth, and faith, suddenly your motivation grows wild and resilient. It doesn't depend on external conditions, it thrives in your inner soil. This idea flips the whole game. Instead of being a slave to results, you become the gardener of your own spirit. The surprising truth: consistency over perfection is the secret sauce. It's less about crushing yourself to reach some mythical success and more about showing up day after day with intention and kindness toward yourself. Spiritual awareness centers here not in some mystical way, but as a practical tool. Faith and divine grace aren't about waiting for miracles to fall from the sky. They're about trusting the timing of your growth, even when it feels slow or uncertain. When you align with this, motivation doesn't flicker and die. It burns steady, lighting your way through the darkest doubts. This new perspective is powerful because it hands you back the steering wheel. It invites you to see strength through solitude, not loneliness, but a powerful connection with yourself that no one else can take away. This is the breakthrough moment. Your motivation becomes an unshakable force born from inside, not borrowed from outside. And it all starts with one simple, profound shift. Stop chasing the shiny things. Start tending your inner garden. Now that you see motivation as a flame fuel from within, what do you do with this knowledge? How do you stop spinning your wheels and start walking a path that feels right, real, and true to who you are? First, slow down. I know that sounds like the opposite of what you've been told your whole life. But patience isn't a weakness, it's a power move. When you rush, you miss the subtle signals your mind and heart are sending. You lose touch with your worth because you're chasing a moving target instead of honoring the journey. Start by tuning into yourself, your values, your emotions, your boundaries. Ask yourself, what do I really need to feel whole today? Not tomorrow, not next year, today. This small question is a compass. It points you away from toxic relationships that drain you and toward the people and habits that lift you up. Next, commit to consistency over perfection. You don't have to be flawless or have every answer. Showing up, even imperfectly, plants the seeds for growth. It's like watering your inner garden, and even when you don't see immediate blooms. This kind of steady care heals wounds and rebuilds your self-worth over time. And here's a secret that's often overlooked: solitude isn't your enemy. It's a powerful ally. Time alone is where emotional healing happens. It's where you learn to stand tall without needing constant validation. It's where faith in your own timing and divine grace takes root. So embrace moments of quiet. Let them be your reset button. Finally, reframe your mindset around setbacks. Instead of beating yourself up when things don't go as planned, remind yourself growth isn't linear. It's messy, unpredictable, and sometimes uncomfortable, but every step forward counts. Your strength is built in those moments of persistence, not in flawless victories. This is your realignment. Take conscious choice to honor your inner peace above external applause. To measure success by how you feel inside, not just by what you accomplish. To move forward with courage, fueled by your own determination, not the world's expectations. And as you begin this journey, remember, you're not walking alone. Every step you take toward inner alignment is a step toward a more empowered, resilient you. Now, here's where your journey truly gains momentum. You've begun to understand that not motivation fueled by your inner self, not the world's endless demands, is the key to lasting change. But how do you unlock this deeper drive when now scraping or the outside noise gets loud again? That's exactly what we're going to explore next. In the upcoming video, Unlocking the Motivation Grid to Regain Self-Worth, we'll dive into the personal development tools that help you reconnect with your core, build resilience, and rise above the distractions. Because understanding your motivation is just the beginning, mastering it requires intentional growth and a mindset reset. This next step isn't optional, it's essential. It's the bridge between feeling lost in ambition fatigue and stepping fully into your power. Missing it means risking the old cycle of burnout and self-doubt pulling you back down. So don't pause here. Take this momentum and keep moving forward with the same courage that brought you this far. Your worth isn't something to prove, it's something to reclaim, and the path to that reclamation is closer than you think. If this resonated with you, subscribe to Wisdom Recorder, your knowledge source for inner strength and growth. Like this video if you're ready to build a motivation that lasts. Remember, this is your journey, your time, and your power. Stay curious, stay patient, and above all, stay true. You ever get the feeling that something isn't right? Like you're smiling at someone who's quietly rooting for your downfall. You trusted them. You opened your heart, and somehow you became the villain in their story. Deception doesn't wear a mask. It wears a smile. It says, "I love you," with a hidden motive. It pretends to support you while silently pulling your strings. And the worst part, it always feels like it's your fault. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. The most dangerous lies aren't the ones other people tell you. They're the ones you tell yourself to keep toxic people close, to avoid being alone, to avoid looking like a fool. But what if solitude was never the danger? What if it's been your safety all along? Because the moment you stop begging for clarity from liars, the moment you realize as silence is an answer, you begin to reclaim something priceless, your peace. Your power, your path. And the first step to vanquishing deception, it's not confrontation. It's not revenge. It's something softer and far more dangerous. Keep watching because what you're about to learn will change how you see everyone and yourself. Let's be honest, you didn't start off being naive. You weren't born easy to fool, easy to break, or easy to manipulate. You just wanted to believe in people. That's it. You had a soft heart. You gave second chances. You were patient, maybe even too patient. But somewhere along the line, that patience turned into pain. That open heart got chipped away, not all at once, but little by little over time. You started ignoring the red flags, calling it loyalty when it was fear, calling it love when it was control, calling it forgiveness when deep down you just didn't want to start over again. Because starting over feels like failure, like you wasted time, like you lost, and so you stayed. You stayed with people who lied to you and about you. You stayed in rooms where your soul was shrinking just to keep the peace. You stayed quiet, hoping someone would notice your pain without you having to explain it. But they didn't, because people who use deception as a tool, they count on your silence. They rely on your hope. They twist your kindness into a weakness. And that's where the real damage happens, not just in what they do to you, but in what you start doing to yourself. Second guessing your instincts, apologizing for things that weren't your fault, making yourself smaller, quieter, more agreeable just to avoid conflict. You begin to lose trust not just in others, but in your own judgment. And that right there is the cost of living in deception. It's not just the heartbreak, it's the self-erasure. The way you start disappearing from your own life because somewhere deep inside, you started believing you don't deserve better. But let me tell you something real clear. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You're not too sensitive. You've just been surviving an environment where truth was a threat and lies were dressed up as love. And you're tired. Not just tired of people, but tired of doubting yourself. Tired of waking up anxious, confused, emotionally drained. Tired of being there for everyone while no one is truly there for you. But that moment right there, that's old deep exhaustion. That's not your breaking point. That's your wake-up call. Because here's the shift. You don't need to become colder to protect yourself. You need to become clearer. And that clarity starts with one bold, sacred choice to stop entertaining what hurts you just because it once felt like home. There's a moment of quiet one, usually where something in you just clicks. You're done begging for truth from people who thrive on confusion. You stop asking, why would they do that to me? And you start asking, why did I ignore myself for so long? That's the shift. Not a loud explosion, a soft, holy awakening. You see, deception isn't just something that happens to you. It's something that enters you. It convinces you to override your own inner voice, to doubt your intuition, to call your wisdom paranoia. But listen to me, your gut has never been your enemy. It's not drama. It's not overthinking. It's the divine alarm system gate planted in your spirit. And for too long, you silenced it. You've trained yourself to accept almost love, half-truths, and people who clap for you in public but compete with you in private. But let me give you something to hold on to, not a quote, not a clutch, a perspective that changes everything. Deception only works where there's a fear of being alone. That's the lever they pull. Because if you weren't afraid to be alone, you wouldn't tolerate half-hearted relationships. You wouldn't keep circling back to people who ghost your growth. You wouldn't keep dimming your light just to make someone else feel comfortable. Let that land for a second. See, solitude isn't punishment. It's sacred space. It's the silence where you finally hear yourself again. And when you stop running from it, you start healing. That's when your perception sharpens. You notice the patterns. You see the same lie, dressed in a different face. You feel the shift in the room when the energy doesn't match the words. You catch the passive aggression in the compliments. You sense the agenda behind the generosity. And suddenly, you're no longer shocked by betrayal. You're prepared for it, not because you're cynical, but because you're awake. That's the power of exposure. Not exposing others, but exposing the parts of you that still craved validation from unsafe places. Because when you finally see it, really see it, you can unsee it. And that's when the healing begins. You're not here to keep proving your worth to people who profit from your confusion. You're not here to be lovable to people who only love your silence. You're here to become whole again, to stand in truth, even if it makes you the only one standing. Because real peace is not about having everyone around you happy. It's about looking in the mirror and finally feeling safe with yourself. So what now? You've seen the truth. You felt the sting of betrayal. You've had the wake-up call that cracked your soul wide open. But what do you do with it? You rebuild differently this time. Not with walls, but with wisdom. Not by closing your heart, but by clearing the gate to it. You don't need to become suspicious of everyone. You just need to start listening to yourself first. Here's where it begins. Step 1, trust your pause. Before you answer, before you agree, before you explain, pause. That silence you fill with overthinking, that's where your clarity lies. When something feels off, don't rush to make it right. Just observe. Let people reveal themselves, because they always do. Step 2, stop arguing with people committed to misunderstanding you. Your peace is not up for debate. You don't tell anyone an emotional TED talk just to justify your boundaries. If someone whisked your clarity into cruelty, they were never listening to begin with. Let that go. Step 3, audit your circle without guilt. Not everyone who started with you can walk with you. Some people love the old version of you, the one who didn't say no, the one who was always available, always forgiving, always shrinking. But now you're growing. And when you grow, some people will call it selfish just because they can't use you anymore. Don't let that distract you. Step 4, speak to yourself like someone you trust. You've internalized enough deception. Now it's time to speak truth over your own soul. Tell yourself, I'm not too much. I am not too sensitive. I'm not hard to love. Tell yourself, my boundaries are not an attack, they're a rescue mission. Tell yourself, I don't need to be perfect. I need to be honest. And finally, step 5, choose consistency over chaos. Deception thrives in confusion. So build a life of emotional consistency, daily prayer, daily reflection, time alone that doesn't feel lonely, but sacred. Choose routines that regulate your nervous system, not people who deregulate your sanity. This isn't about cutting everyone up. This is about reconnecting with the one person you stop trusting the most, you. Because when you believe your own voice, you don't chase clarity, you become it. You walk into every room whole, calm and unshaken. You're no longer looking for safety in people. You carry it. That's how you vanquish deception. Not with revenge, not with rage, but with radical alignment between what you feel, what you know, and how you move. And here's the thing about people who operate in deception: they can't survive in the light. They depend on your confusion to keep control. But when you walk in truth, consistently, confidently, quietly, you become untouchable. You don't have to expose anyone. You become the exposure. And that changes everything. Now you know deception was never just about what they did. It was about what it taught you about yourself, about your power, about your worth, about how dangerous it is to stay silent when your spirit is screaming for clarity. And if you made it this far, it means you're not just looking for healing. You're ready to protect it. You're ready to build a life so rooted in truth, so aligned with your values, that deception has nowhere to hide. But there's one more piece. You need one shift that turns wisdom into action and clarity into courage. The mental toughness. Because once you see the truth, you need the strength to live it, especially when it's hard. Especially when it's lonely. Especially when people question your growth, mock your boundaries, or try to guilt you back into who you used to be. Mental toughness isn't about being cold. It's about staying clear when the pressure is on. It's about holding your peace when the world is throwing noise. And it's what we're diving into in the next video. This mindset makes you unstoppable. You're going to learn how to build an inner world that can't be shaken, not by criticism, not by fear, not by the people who never saw your worth. And if you've ever struggled to hold the line, if you've ever doubted your strength once the emotions wore off, then what's coming next is essential. Your breakthrough doesn't come from just knowing what's broken. It comes from standing firm in your new truth again and again until it becomes your identity. Because now you're not just healing, you're rising. Subscribe and like for more. We're just getting started. This is Wisdom Recorder, your knowledge source. They don't break down right away. They don't scream, cry, or chase you, at least not in the beginning. When you finally say no, when you choose yourself over their chaos, something colder happens. They go quiet. In that silence, it's not peace. It's a storm pulling back before it slams you. See, rejecting a narcissist doesn't just bruise their ego. It exposes the one thing they can't tolerate: being powerless over you. And when someone who's used to control feels powerless, they don't disappear. They morph. They mirror your strength, fake your peace, and wait for the right moment to flip the story. That's why some people walk away from narcissists and still feel like they're trapped. Because narcissistic abuse doesn't always end with the breakup, it echoes in your thoughts, in your guilt, in the way you start doubting your own strength again. But here's the part most people don't see coming: that rejection. That choice to walk away is not the end of a toxic story. It's the beginning of your healing. And if you stay with me for the next few minutes, you'll see exactly why. Because it's not just about rejecting a narcissist. It's about reclaiming everything they convinced you to forget. You didn't plan for this. You didn't wake up one day and decide, I want to be manipulated, lied to, gaslit, and broken down. No one does. That's the sick genius of a narcissist. They don't take control. They convince you to hand it over, piece by piece. First, they charm you, make you feel like the center of the universe, like you're chosen, finally understood. And just when you start to breathe easier, they twist it. You stop recognizing yourself in the mirror. You second guess your every move. You start apologizing for things you didn't do just to keep the peace. And still, it's never enough, because with a narcissist, the goalpost always moves. If you stand up for yourself, you're too sensitive. If you stay quiet, you're cold. If you ask for space, you're abandoning them. It's a cycle of controlled rest up as love, and it leaves you drained. The worst part, you know something's wrong. Deep down, your gut has been screaming for a while. But narcissistic abuse is slow. It's subtle. It wraps around you like fog until you're not even sure what's real anymore. You start to question your sanity. You start to believe maybe you are the problem. You feel stuck not just in the relationship, but in your own mind. You go to bed emotionally exhausted, praying that tomorrow will be different, but it never is. And this constant emotional whiplash, it breaks your spirit quietly. So when you finally gather the strength to reject a narcissist, when you say, "I'm done," it doesn't feel like a victory. It feels terrifying, because now it's just you. No more walking on eggshells. No more battles for basic respect, but also no more distractions from the wounds they left behind. That's the breaking point, when the silence after the chaos is almost louder than the chaos itself. And you wonder, did I make a mistake? Will I ever feel whole again? That's the moment most people give up and go back. Not because they want to, but because healing feels unfamiliar, and familiar pain feels safer. But let me tell you something. That fear you're feeling, it's not weakness. It's the sound of your nervous system waking up from war. And you're not broken. You're unfreezing. And what comes next is everything. What if I told you that the pain you're feeling right now, the confusion, the doubt, the ache that won't let you sleep isn't the end of you. It's the detox. You're not just healing from a person. You're healing from a pattern, a belief system, a story where you were always the one who had to shrink so someone else could feel big. But here's the truth most people never realize. Rejecting a narcissist isn't just about saying no to them. It's about saying yes to your own power. Because narcissists don't choose weak people. They target the strong ones who don't know their strength yet, the kin-hearted, the deep feelers, the ones with empathy, so why they keep giving even when it costs them everything. You were never broken. You were. And now that you said no, they're scrambling. Not because they lost love, but because they lost access. Access to your energy, to your forgiveness, to your light. They'll try to twist the story, act like you're cold, selfish, and stable. Why? Because they can't control what they can't confuse. But guess what? You don't owe them closure. You don't owe them explanation. You owe you a future that isn't ruled by guilt, fear, or manipulation disguised as love. And that starts when you stop looking at this pain as a punishment and start seeing it as a portal. You're being asked to cross through something, from survival to clarity, from self-blame to self-respect, from waiting on their apology to giving yourself permission to move on. Think about it. If you left a burning building, would you stand outside questioning whether it was your fault the fire started? No? You'd breathe. You'd shake. You'd grieve what was lost, but you wouldn't run back in. This is the saying, the fire was never your fault, but the healing, that's yours now. And it begins the moment you stop asking why they did and start asking why you stayed so long ignoring your own worth. That's not weakness. That's the beginning of wisdom. So where do you go from here? How do you rebuild a self that's been picked apart, manipulated, and left in pieces? You start small. Quietly, intentionally, not with 1,000 affirmations taped to your mirror or some fake smile that says, "I'm fine." You start by doing something radical in a world that profits off your self-doubt. You start believing your own voice again. That quiet instinct you silence to keep the peace, Listen to it. That ache in your chest that told you something was wrong long before you had proof, honor it, because your healing won't come from figuring them out. It'll come from coming home to yourself. Try this for one day. Stop explaining yourself. Seriously, don't justify your silence, your peace, your decisions. Hey, just live. Because people who demand endless explanations aren't looking for understanding, they're looking for control. You don't know anyone your inner world. Second, redefine strength. Strength isn't pretending nothing happened. It's choosing not to let it define you. It's crying when you need to. It's resting without guilt. It's being patient with the parts of yourself that forgot how to feel safe. Third, replace perfection with consistency. You don't have to heal everything overnight. You don't have to glow up, get revenge, or post inspirational quotes to prove you've moved on. Just keep showing up for yourself daily, even when you're tired, even when your hands shake, even when your old thoughts whisper, maybe they were right about me. Because every time you choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, stillness over performance, you're teaching your nervous system what safety actually feels like. And finally, invite something bigger than you into the process. Whether it's faith, prayer, meditation, or just breathing under the stars, you don't have to carry all of this alone. Sometimes, the healing begins the moment you whisper, "I can't do this without grace." Because grace will meet you where guilt has left you. And the more you root into your worth, the less space toxicity will have to grow. You are not hard to love. You were just loving people who needed you to forget your value so they could feel powerful. But now you remember, and that changes everything. Right now, you're standing at a crossroads. One path leads back to silence, the kind that eats away at your spirit while the world thinks you're okay. The other, it leads into something uncomfortable but sacred, your healing. And as you move forward, there's something deeper you need to face, not just the pain they caused, but the pain you've been carrying in silence for years. That inner ache you don't talk about, the pressure to be strong, hold it together, smile while falling apart. That's what the next chapter is about. If this video spoke to your heart, then how to stop suffering in silence is your next step. Because you can't just walk from toxic people, you've got to walk back to yourself. And that journey begins when you stop pretending you're okay. And finally give yourself permission to not be. You're not alone in this. Let the silence become your strength, not your prison. Let the healing begin. You've just watched Wisdom, Recorder, your knowledge source. If this stirred something in you, don't just walk away. Subscribe and like and join the people who are done suffering quietly and ready to rise loudly. You're grinding, praying, showing up, but doors keep closing. People keep leaving. And peace, yeah, that disappeared months ago. Here's what nobody tells you: when God is preparing you for greatness, He doesn't start with blessings. He starts with breaking. Yeah, the silence you're drowning in, the betrayal that shattered you, the delay that's making you question your whole damn path. It's not failure. It's formation. Because before He trusts you with more, He strips away everything fake. The noise, the ego, even the people you thought would stay. And if you're feeling invisible right now, like heaven hit mute on your life, that might be the clearest sign that something big is already unfolding. But here's the catch. Most people walk away in this exact moment thinking they're being punished. They don't realize they're being positioned. So before you check out or numb out or give up, ask yourself, what if this pain is the setup? What if everything is happening for you, not to you? And more importantly, what if the silence is where the real message is hiding? Keep watching. You're about to see why the most powerful shifts happen before anyone claps. You've been carrying the weight of unanswered questions, dragging your soul through days that feel the same. Smiling in public, but low-key breaking down in private. You wonder if you're falling behind, if maybe you missed your shot. You scroll through everyone else's wins, wondering, why not me? You doubt yourself. You question God. And the silence, that's the loudest part. You've outgrown who you used to be, but you're not yet who you're becoming. And that in-between space, it's brutal. Because nobody tells you that growth feels like loss. You start letting go of people who once felt like home. You lose taste for a thing that used to excite you. You crave depth, but you're surrounded by noise. And in trying to hold on, you begin to lose yourself. There's this internal tug of war happening between who you were and who you're being called to be. And that tug, it hurts, but you're not crazy, and you're not weak, you're not broken, you're in transition. And transitions are always messy. It's the stretch before the shift, the ache before alignment. God's not ignoring you. He's removing what can't come with you. And that includes relationships, habits, even identities that were never rooted in your real purpose. But still you feel exhausted. You're tired of trying to be strong, tired of holding it all together when nothing makes sense. And yet there's a whisper inside you that won't shut up. A quiet knowing that says you weren't made for mediocrity. That even in your lowest moments, you were being prepared, not punished, prepared. And the longer you resist this season, the longer it'll hurt. Because when God is trying to birth something in you, delay doesn't mean denial. But resistance can make the lesson last a lifetime. You weren't meant to stay stuck here, but you do need to understand why you're here. Because the pain you avoid is often the preparation you need. Here's the shift, lean in. What if the struggle isn't the enemy, but the assignment? What if the delay isn't blocking your destiny, but building it? See, we've been conditioned to think progress looks like forward motion. But in God's kingdom, stillness can be sacred. Waiting can be warfare. And isolation, that's often the operating room where He performs the deepest surgery on your soul. Think about it. Before David became king, he was alone in fields with sheep. Before Moses led nation, he wandered the desert forgotten, exiled, invisible. Even Jesus spent 30 years in obscurity before 3 years of public ministry. Why? Because visibility without preparation is dangerous. And power without character, that's a disaster waiting to happen. So if God has you hidden right now, there's a reason. He's not punishing you, He's protecting the process. He's pulling weeds you didn't know were choking your spirit. He's detoxing your soul from validation addiction. He's forcing you to sit with silence so you stop begging for answers and start listening for truth. And maybe, just maybe, He's letting that toxic relationship unravel so you stop shrinking yourself to feel love. This isn't just about a new job, a healed heart, or a big opportunity. This is about transformation. The kind that doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you are. Because when God prepares you for greatness, He doesn't just give you the blessing, He makes you become the person who can carry it. And sometimes that means breaking what's brittle, shaking what's shallow, testing what's temporary, so He can build you on something eternal. You don't need more speed, you need more substance. You don't need a shortcut, you need structure. You don't need to be seen, you need to be strengthened. This waiting, this stretching, this season where nothing makes sense, it's not a detour. It's the road. And if you're brave enough to walk it, you won't just get what you prayed for, you'll become someone who can keep it. So what do you do now? How do you move forward when everything around you feels like it's standing still? First, you stop trying to skip the process. Stop praying for escape and start praying for endurance. Ask God, what are you trying to teach me here? Not how fast can I get out, but how deep can I grow in? Because your healing won't come from avoiding the pain. It'll come from facing it, and name it, and letting God meet you there in the raw, ugly middle of it. Second, you practice patience like it's your purpose. We live in a culture that worships speed. But God doesn't microwave character. He slow cooks it. So when it feels like nothing's happening, trust that everything is. Silence is not absence. Delay is not denial. Third, you let go of what's not rooted in truth. That version of you that needed to be liked by everybody. Let it die. The habit of overthinking, doubting, replaying wounds like they're gospel, release it. Because healing doesn't happen when life gets easier. It happens when you get stronger. And you do that by showing up consistently, not perfectly. You don't need a flawless morning routine. You don't need to journal every thought or pray like a preacher. You just need one decision at a time that aligns with who you're becoming. You protect your peace. You limit access to people who only feed your insecurities. You choose silence over noise, prayer over panic, truth over temporary relief. And most importantly, you stop measuring progress by what you can post. Because the real work, it's unseen. It's you on your knees at 3 a.m. It's the moment you choose not to text back. It's the voice you shut down that tells you you're not enough. That's the work. That's the preparation. That's where greatness is forged, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. And if you keep showing up in the shadows, one day you'll realize the light was never something you had to chase. It was something you were becoming all along. You're not lost. You're being led. And if your heart's been restless, your spirit tired, your soul craving something deeper, that's not coincidence. That's calling. Because when God starts preparing you for something big, you'll feel it. But here's the thing, He won't send a calendar invite. He'll send tension. He'll send disruption. He'll shake the comfortable to awaken the capable. So if the people around you don't understand you anymore, if your dreams suddenly feel too big, too scary, too lonely, good. You're not crazy. They're not broken. They're close. But you've got to stay with it. Don't abort the process because it's uncomfortable. Don't mistake stretching for breaking. And don't you dare settle just because waiting feels like wasting. God's timing is divine strategy. He's not just working on what's coming, He's working in you. So when it arrives, you won't sabotage it. Now, if this message hit you in the gut, if it feels like you're seized and has been full of silence, confusion, or hard choices, then the next thing you need to hear is this. When God is about to give you something big, you will see, because there are signs. There are whispers. There's divine alignment waiting to be uncovered in your life. And you're closer than you think. So don't stop now. That next video, it's not just content, it's confirmation. Go watch it. Let it prepare you for the shift that's already on the way. And before you go, if you felt something unlock inside you today, if this message gave you strength or stirred your spirit, do one thing to keep this momentum alive. Subscribe and like. This is Wisdom Recorder, your knowledge source. You ever notice how the women who radiate the most peace never run after anything? Not a man, not a job, not even closure. They don't chase because they already know what they bring. And the moment you know your worth, you stop trying to prove it. But here's the truth, no one's telling you chasing is never about love. It's about fear. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of being alone. Fear that you are not enough. And that fear, it's a lie someone taught you when you were tired, when you were hurting, when you were hurting, when you were vulnerable. But what if the very thing you're chasing is the thing that's keeping you from receiving? Pause there. Think about it. Because in the next few minutes, you're going to see why the most magnetic, high-value women don't chase anything and how you can become one of them without changing a single thing about your appearance. Only your energy. Let's be real for a second. There's a quiet kind of exhaustion that no one talks about. It's not the kind of tired that sleep can fix. It's emotional fatigue. The kind that creeps in when you've been giving your all, hoping to be seen, hoping to be chosen, hoping this time will be different. You keep showing up with your heart wide open, and what do you get? Breadcrumbs, mixed signals, moments that feel like love, followed by silence that feels like punishment. You start questioning yourself. Did I come on too strong? Was I not enough? Should I have waited longer to reply? You replay every text, every tone of voice, like a forensic investigator of your own heartbreak. And the most brutal part, you're not chasing him. You're chasing peace. You're chasing reassurance. You're chasing the version of you that didn't second guess everything. That version of you, the one before the constant emotional tug of war chest buried under layers of anxiety, disappointment, and overthinking. And somewhere in your chest, there's a war between two voices. One is whispering, maybe if I try harder, they'll see me. The other is begging, please stop. Please come home to yourself. But the chase doesn't end because they finally text back. It ends when you finally get sick of abandoning yourself. The real breaking point isn't when they leave, it's when you realize you've been leaving you every time you compromise your worth just to feel temporarily wanted. That's what it costs you, your inner peace, your clarity, your ability to recognize when something real shows up. And nobody tells you how painful the shift is when you start choosing silence over explaining, boundaries over begging, solitude over shaky connections. But that pain is holy. It's the crack where your strength starts leaking through. And that's where the real story begins. Here's the truth that turns everything upside down. High-value women don't chase not because they're cold or indifferent. They don't chase because they remember who they are. They've learned that the moment you chase, you hand your power away. You flip the dynamic from I choose to please, choose me. And the minute your worth is dependent on someone else's validation, you're no longer living from confidence, you're surviving from scarcity. But what if you flipped the lens? What if chasing wasn't about desire, but about disconnection? Because the woman who's deeply connected to herself doesn't run after anything. She attracts, not through manipulation or performance, but through alignment. Alignment with her values, alignment with her peace, alignment with the divine timing she trusts, even when nothing makes sense yet. Imagine it like this. You're a lighthouse, not a lifeboat. You're not meant to chase ships in the dark, you're meant to stand tall and steady, shining their light so that the right ones find their way to you. But when you're constantly swimming after the wrong things, you stop being a lighthouse. You become a wave pulled by every tide, exhausted by every current, lost in everyone else's storms. High-value women protect their energy like it's sacred. Because it is. They know that silence is a message. That distance is clarity. That peace isn't something you stumble into, it's something you choose again and again, even when it's lonely. Because sometimes the loneliest season of your life is the one that births your highest version. And here's the hidden insight most people miss. Healing doesn't always look like smiling in the mirror. Sometimes healing looks like ignoring that text, letting the door stay closed, sitting with the ache without trying to numb it. Because on the other side of that ache is the version of you that doesn't settle anymore. That's the turning point. It's not about becoming harder. It's about becoming whole. So now what? What do you do when you realize you've been handing out pieces of yourself like coupons just to feel wanted? You stop chasing and you start remembering. Step 1, reclaim your energy. Not with big declarations, not with burning bridges, just with quiet decisions. You stop over-explaining. You stop performing. You stop negotiating your worth in conversations that never deserved your voice in the first place. You shift from asking, what do they think of me, to how do I feel around them? That question alone will change your entire life. That can build your self-trust muscle. That's self-esteem. Self-trust. Confidence isn't walking into a room thinking you're better than everyone. It's walking in and not needing to compare at all. And that comes from keeping promises to yourself, even the small ones. You say you're not going to text him, don't. You say you'll go for that morning walk, do it. You say you'll protect your peace this time, then protect it, like your life depends on it, because emotionally, it does. And third, understand this, chasing is about filling a gap between where you are and where you believe love lies. But real love, whether from others or from the divine, doesn't live in the chase. It lives in stillness, in the quiet confidence of knowing that what's meant for you won't need to be hunted down. It will recognize you. It will respect you. It will rest with you, because high-value women don't chase. They align. And alignment means being willing to let go of the almost love to make space for the all-in-kind. The kind that doesn't need convincing. The kind that doesn't confuse your nervous system. The kind that reflects back everything you already are without you having to shrink or shapeshift. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about shedding everything you were never meant to carry. You don't need to beg for what you are worthy of. You just need to stand still long enough to let it find you. You've been taught to chase, taught to earn love, fix, to overfunction, to wait for the moment when someone else finally sees your worth. But here's the truth that most people never grasp. Your value isn't unlocked by how hard you try. It's revealed when you stop trying to be anything other than who you already are. And when you sit in that stillness, when you breathe instead of beg, something powerful happens. You stop attracting people who test your worth, and you start attracting people who reflect it. So if you're ready to go even deeper, to understand why your presence stays radiant while others fade, there's something you need to hear in the next video. You're ageless because of this one trait. It's not skincare. It's not charm. It's not even personality. It's something INFJs, an emotionally deep whim, and do without even realizing it. And it's why they move through the world with a kind of timeless magnetism. This next message will help you unlock that energy. The kind that makes people remember you long after you leave the room. Because your journey isn't just about healing. It's about becoming unforgettable. So don't stop here. You're not done yet. Tap into your next chapter. You're ageless because of this one trait. You don't want to miss what's waiting on the other side. This is Wisdom, Recorder, your knowledge source. Subscribe and like if this message lit a fire in you. Everyone wants peace, right? Calm mind. Get quiet life. No drama. But here's the twist. What if the thing you call peace is actually just emotional suppression in a cute outfit? What if your calm is just control? What if your patience is how you learn it to tolerate manipulation? And the real reason you're always exhausted is because you've been fighting for peace in a place designed to keep you triggered. No one tells you this, but narcissistic people don't just steal your joy. They train you to fear it, to question it, to think calm is boring and chaos is love. So now the question is, if peace was never supposed to feel like walking on eggshells, then what the hell is peace really? Stick around. This is about to get personal. You can't find peace by constantly managing someone else's storm. And the people who test your worth the most, they often show up right before your breakthrough. So if life feels unbearably loud right now, like your spirit is unraveling thread by thread, maybe it's not falling apart. Maybe it's quieting down so you can finally hear yourself. Stick with me, because what NPE reveals about your journey to inner peace isn't just psychological, it's spiritual. And once you see it, you'll never tolerate chaos the same way again. Let's be honest, burnout doesn't always show up as exhaustion. Sometimes it wears a smile. Sometimes it looks like overfunctioning, over-apologizing, or staying calm when you're actually collapsing inside. You've been praised for being so strong, so composed, so understanding. But nobody saw the private battles you were fighting just to keep the peace. The truth is, many women who attract narcissistic energy aren't weak, they're rescuers. Empaths, carriers of everyone's pain but their own. And somewhere along the way, you got used to the role, the fixer, the forgiver, the one who always finds a way to rationalize someone else's bad behavior. But what happens when the same patience that helped you survive becomes the very thing that's keeping you stuck? You start second-guessing yourself. You replay conversations trying to decode manipulation that wore a smile. You wonder if you're the problem, and deep down, you feel ashamed not just for what happened, but for staying, for hoping, for giving that one last benefit of the doubt. Again, you tell yourself, I'm tired, but it's deeper than tired. You're so worn. You're tired of pretending, half shrinking, or trading your peace for proximity to people who never earned your trust. And the cost is you, your energy, your dreams, your time, your self-respect. It doesn't just drain your day, it rewires your brain. It trains you to live in survival mode, to anticipate disappointment before it even knocks, to mute your intuition because it got in the way of keeping things calm. But let's make something clear. Feeling lost, numb, or angry right now doesn't mean you're failing. It means you've outgrown the version of yourself that was built to endure pain, and now you're being called to become someone new. Someone who doesn't need to beg for peace because she embodies it. This breaking point, it's not your end. It's the edge of your awakening. Here's the twist no one prepares you for. The people who made you question your worth were never qualified to define it. You were just learning the hard way that not everyone who wants your light deserves your warmth. And once you start seeing narcissistic behavior for what it truly is, a reflection of that emptiness, not your inadequacy, something inside you begins to shift. You stop asking, why wasn't I enough? And start asking, why did I try so hard for someone who couldn't even meet themselves honestly? This is the moment everything changes. Because peace, real peace, it doesn't mean everything around you is calm. It means you are. And it begins when you stop managing the emotional weather of other people and start mastering the climate within. That's what narcissistic dynamics actually reveal, not just how manipulative someone can be, but how deeply you've neglected yourself trying to keep them happy. You tolerated instability because you were afraid that choosing yourself would make you selfish. But here's the truth. Self-respect is not selfish. Boundaries are not cruelty. Silence is not weakness. And walking away is not quitting, it's graduating. Think of your inner peace like a garden. A narcissist will always want to rearrange the soil, control the water, question the sunlight. But peace doesn't need permission, it grows when you protect it. It thrives in clarity, not chaos. And now, the lesson becomes clear. Your energy is a currency. Stop giving discounts to people who keep overdrawing their soul. You don't need to be more patient. You need to be more present. Present to what your body is telling you. Present to what your spirit already knows. Present to the fact that walking alone for a season is nothing compared to walking with people who make you feel lonely every day. This isn't just a mindset shift. It's a spiritual one, because when you finally stop negotiating your value, you make room for divine alignment. And in that space, healing begins, not through perfection, not through performance, but through presence. The world told you to hustle for worth, but grace whispers that you already have it. You just forgot. So what now? How do you rebuild when the version of you that survived isn't the one you want to carry forward? Start here. Radical self-honesty. Not the kind that shames you for your past, but the kind that finally says, I've had enough. Enough of shrinking, enough of explaining, enough of bending so far you forgot you were never supposed to break. Take a moment today, just one, and ask yourself with compassion, what part of me have I been abandoning to keep someone else comfortable? Because real inner peace doesn't come from cutting people off, it comes from coming back to you. It's about no longer needing chaos to feel worthy of attention. No longer mistaking intensity for intimacy. No longer accepting emotional whiplash as love. And it's simple, but it's not easy. You choose peace again and again and again, even when it's boring, even when it's lonely, even when the silence gets so loud. Your trauma wants to fill it with noise. You'll be tempted to go back, to over-explain, to check in on the person who never really checked in on you. But remember, this healing doesn't always feel empowering. Sometimes it feels like grief, like letting go of the fantasy, like mourning the time you can't get back, like sitting with your own heartache instead of escaping into someone else's drama. But that pain is sacred. It's the space where your next self is born. So what do you do now? You protect your energy like it's your life, because it is. You speak to yourself the way you wish others had. You stop trying to be impressive, and you start being rich. You start slow. One breath, one boundary, one moment of choosing you over the pattern. And most importantly, you trust that divine timing doesn't rush. Just because your peace took time to arrive doesn't mean it's late. It means it's lasting. Because this isn't about revenge. It's not about proving anything. It's about becoming unavailable to what used to break you. Every step you take in silence, every time you choose solitude over chaos, presence over panic, grace over grit, you are building a life that feels like home. And here's the miracle. Once you become peaceful, the people who feed on your chaos can't treat you anymore. They're allergic to wholeness. Let them drift. You've got peace to protect. Now that you see the pattern, now that you've stopped blaming yourself for someone else's dysfunction, there's a new challenge waiting for you. How do you stay clear when the world keeps pulling you back into noise? That's where the next step of your journey begins. If today's message helped you see the cost of tolerating emotional chaos, then from overwhelm to clarity, your inner peace guide is where you start learning to live in that peace every day. Because healing isn't just about walking away. It's about walking forward with clarity, with confidence, with calm that doesn't need defending. That next video is packed with grounded wisdom drawn from Stoic philosophy, inner peace, and Stoic wisdom, so you're not just surviving, you're building a foundation that nothing and no one can shake. If this resonated, don't let the momentum fade. Click through. Keep growing, because the world doesn't change when you scream louder. It changes when you finally stop chasing noise and start becoming still. This is Wisdom, recording your knowledge source. Subscribe and like if you're ready to stop repeating the cycle and start writing a new one.